Okay, I am using if you can see this, the sap green, the burnt sienna, the raw sienna, ultramarine blue, the cobalt blue, and I'm also added white to the pigment today that I'll be using later on, and showing you how to use it not only opaquely but translucently, which is adding a lot of water. So what we're going to start with today is I'm going to take my spray gun here, and I'm just going to slightly wet just the upper third of the painting. And I'm going to take the cobalt blue a little bit, and I'm going to add a little bit of raw sienna to it because it is an overcast sky. So I'm going to take just a little bit of raw sienna, which will help gray it down. And I'm going to paint this up in here a little bit like so. And I am trying to allow some of that color to fall through the pine trees in the background. And I'm going to take the sap green from that point, add it right to the cobalt blue, a little bit of burnt sienna, and some ultramarine blue. And it gets kind of a warmish green. I do want to cool it down a little bit, so I'm going to add a little bit of the cobalt blue back to it. And I'm simply going to very carefully and quickly move along through the background like so. And being the first passage, I'm always working more intense color at the beginning and graying things down as I move through it. I'm going to add a little bit more burnt or a raw, the ultramarine blue. I'm tongue-tied this morning. And a little bit of the burnt sienna and some more of the sap green, a little bit more ultramarine blue. So I want to get these trees in the foreground here a little bit darker, a little bit darker, grayer looking, because it's going to come forward. This is receiving a little bit more light back here. And every 3 or 4 brush strokes, I'm adding a different color, a different value, a different temperature, so that there's a variety of things going on, and allowing all the edges to remain on the softer side. At this point, I'm going to take the toothbrush with some sap green and some of the ultramarine blue, and I'm mixing it right within what I've been mixing here. And I'm going to add a little bit of the toothbrush in here. And I'm going to take the smaller brush here, my smaller cat tongue brush, and I'm going to add that right in here like this, so that it adds a little bit of different flavoring. And while it's still wet, so that it melts, I'm going to take some of the cobalt blue, and I'm going to add it right in here and back in here a little bit, so that we have a little bit of that spattering moving through. At the same time, at this point, I clean my palette. And I'm taking a look at how things are drifting through with the cobalt blue, which is, in this case, our cooler blue. And I'm going to run it through the bottom here. Which is the shadow part of the snow. And these are the cast shadows coming off of here. I'm leaving some of the white of the paper. And way in the background, I'm going to tone all this down, because that snow back there will be darker in value because it's further away. Lights get darker as they go back. And I'm going to take my smaller cat tongue brush here.
Why don't you try signing out and signing back in? All right, I'm here for you.
We have a little bit of a problem with somebody signing in, I think.
Linda can't see you. She can hear you.
Okay, and I'm going to take this across through here, so our color becomes a little bit more pure as we come forward. And again, I'm going to take the larger brush with the cobalt. And I'm going to slowly add some of these passages. And I'm going to try to keep them connected so that there's no stop and start areas too much. And down here in the corner, I'm going to tone this very lightly to start with, so that this has a tendency of your eye will go up and over it a little bit easier. And it's a little bit more subtle. Now the snow is, anything white or the snow in general is cooler nearest us, and it gets warmer as it goes by. And then I'll take the spray gun and a clean paper towel. And I'm going to spray this ever so slightly in the background. And I'm going to pull it up for a little bit of texture so that it's not so solid looking.
Ask Linda. Linda, can you see Dale yet?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. So this will allow for light and dark things to come forward, things to move back within the snow scene. And I do a lot of this pulling up of color throughout the whole painting. Okay, so that's my first wash. And just to review, I started with the blue up in here, the cobalt blue with a little bit of raw sienna. Then I came in with the sap green and the raw sienna, a little bit of the cobalt blue. And I traveled across adding more ultramarine, a little bit of burnt sienna. And then down into here, I started adding the cobalt blue because this is all in shadow. There's a lot of things going on in the photograph. I'm trying to simplify it. So I didn't leave as much light going through here. This will be the more light area in this particular thing. And I ran the cobalt very lightly through here and up in here. And then I just stopped. You're leaving a little bit of the white of the paper here and there. I'm not concerned about the river at this point because we can delineate that later. So you go ahead and you can start that. And I will check on what you're doing. And remember, I did start spraying this and pulling up until after I had done this down here. This was dry enough to pull up. So how did you like the North Woods again this year?
Oh, I love it. Can we sign up soon?
Yes.
Are you going back?
You should be able to sign up at Dillman's, I think.
They have the brochure out.
The brochure.
Oh, yeah. So I haven't looked because I'm in the same process as you. I'm moving.
Yeah.
So.
There's going to be 2 Popoviches teaching at Dillman's this year.
Are you
They
teaching too?
they asked me to teach a class on how to promote your artwork online.
Oh, well, you're
cool.
great at that.
Yeah.
They said that
super.
I had the most students out of any instructor with a waiting list. I says, well, talk to the young lady over there. She's the one that helps me.
So
So they hired her.
he beat out 2 big names that always have a good pull.
Is that right?
Yeah. So they
I'm a bit flabbergasted on that, but
and so Danny and
so
Sue came up to me and said, could you teach a class on this? First, they asked me if I'd sit around the fireplace at night and just kind of talk to people about it. I said,
Oh, you can't do that.
No.
so
You
right
got the
now,
dog.
yeah, I'm in the process of writing it all up, doing all the slides, trying to figure out how to not overwhelm people, you know, how to slam a lot of fun into it because it can be pretty dry. But I have been talking to art leagues for the last 4 years about how to do this. So at least I know how I want to lay it out.
How many days are you going to be there?
4 days.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's a full, like 9 to 4?
Yeah, but
Like
I'm gonna figure out how we can have some fun. I mean, do we go on the pontoon boat one day and have class?
Yeah, you have to. It's a
Yeah.
little dry.
you could do some of this outside because you'll have 12 students.
Yeah, it's a maximum of 12.
Yep. So
So is that in the spring or is that next fall?
It's the end of May.
it's the end of May.
Yeah,
And then I'm in the fall, more or
And
less.
he's September to October, late
Yeah.
September.
oh, see, I have a tough time with forests in the fall with my allergies.
Yeah.
You know, I can go in the spring. Other people,
I have my allergies never seem to stop, so I don't have a tough time.
you don't have a season.
No,
My worst season is October, September, hay fever.
My October, yeah, mine's October into early November. I was in Annapolis Watercolor Society last night and they said you'll be doing a demo next month.
yes,
And then a workshop in March online.
At Annapolis, AWC?
yes, yep.
Yeah, oh, great. That's my hometown. I grew up there.
Oh,
Haven't
really?
lived there. You haven't lived there in years, but yeah, I grew up on the bay there.
Oh, how nice.
Fred, you want to hold yours up if you're there to the camera a little bit more?
Sure.
Okay. You know you're on vertical. That looks good, though.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm gonna come back and check. How you doing, Rick?
Just great. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah, good. When you are painting certain passages, you want to paint with the movement of the land and not paint in a downward motion if it isn't necessary.
Yeah,
Because I'm painting this in a vertical diagonal. This was painted into the valley of the creek.
right. Sort of shaping and molding it.
Yeah, 99% of the time you want to paint in the direction of the movement of the land. Hang on for a minute. I've got a young lady down here that doesn't belong.
Are you talking?
You stay.
No, you're not.
He took the dog upstairs.
Oh. I thought
Okay,
my-
I'm back.
There.
Mother grabbed my sponge. Anything that's left within her height, which isn't too much, she can grab onto. Okay, Janet, can I see what you're doing, please? Oh, good. Very good. Janet was at my workshop and she turned a lot of corners in those 4 days. She did really well. Okay, Diana, how are you doing?
I don't know, you tell me. Can you see it?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
See if you can connect some of those blues across the river. You can go right through the stream. Doesn't make any difference. I went into the
Okay.
stream a little bit here and there. Linda, how are you doing?
I think okay.
Okay,
Can you
good.
see?
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna go a little bit darker in the upper left-hand corner as we move through it, but you're fine right now. You can always go
Okay.
darker. You can always go darker. It's hard to go lighter sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
Julie, how are you doing? Good. All right, wonderful. I picked this landscape for several reasons. It's a little bit more abstract and what you're putting down can be changed a little bit here, a little bit there from the photograph. I never follow the photograph anyways, to a certain extent, because I went from a vertical format to a horizontal. Okay, Denise, how are you doing, young lady? No, you're fine.
Really?
Yes. You're with.
I like the kind of paper that you're using because it looks so bumpy.
Yeah, I use a lot of the indigo. I've become a little bit more dissatisfied with the arches in the past few years.
Yeah, I'm not getting that bumpiness at all, and I just love the way that looks.
The indigo really lends itself towards the subject matters that I paint. I do paint on hot press occasionally.
Is the indigo from America? Do they make it here?
No, it's India.
Oh, so if we ordered it now, it'll come in 2 years?
I don't know. I ordered before, or I ordered around Thanksgiving, and I got it from Cheap Joe's with no problem.
Okay, maybe I'll just go through Cheap Joe's. Yeah, I love it. Is it 300 pounds?
It's 300 pound, or it will say 640 grams.
Uh-huh.
If you go with the 300 and whatever grams, that's the 140 pound or whatever. You don't want that.
I want the heavy paper.
Yes, the 640 grams they have it in.
Okay.
It says pounds right underneath it, but it's
Yeah.
a smaller type. I made a mistake once.
Okay.
Julie, how are you doing? Okay, great, good. Now, if you're coming out with a little bit different landscape, that doesn't matter, as long as it works within its own frame of reference. That's what I'm really concerned about. Because sometimes people come out with a little bit different landscape, which is fine. And Tony,
Yeah,
how are you doing?
just remember I'm the beginner. Can you see, where am I? Yeah.
Okay, you're right there. All right,
Yeah, I'm just going for the values right now.
okay. Need to finish up that foreground.
Yeah, oh, can I go ahead and do with some blues? Is that what you're doing?
In cobalt blue, and allowed the greens to mix in with it, because that's going to influence the white. Remember, light objects will reflect other colors.
Right,
So
right. So the snow will reflect the blues for the cool snow.
you look-
Actually, I'm taking a value study class starting the end of the month, except that we're using Copic markers and gray values to learn to set up your value studies.
good. Did I miss anybody? I think I got everybody. Because I got a slide rule of people at the bottom of my screen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have my permission to save me for last.
But I do jump around,
Okay,
who finishes first and so forth.
surprise attack.
We had mostly overcast days up there this Christmas,
Yeah,
but we had several sun bright days, but I was too busy to go out and shoot any photography. Although I did shoot some in town that were interesting geometric patterns of the buildings and so forth, because they're all older buildings from mid-century, turn of the last century.
are you half moved up there?
I have taken 2 large U-Haul trucks up there, and we still have an abundance of stuff in the house.
Uh,
We're going through 33 years of stuff,
mm.
like trying to fit 10 pounds of stuff in a 1 pound bag. But we have
Yeah,
a basement, and we have a extremely large garage. So we will be having probably about 2 or 3 garage sales while we're up there the first year, because we'll be selling some of the antique furniture that didn't sell here.
we don't have anything that fancy, but we're on first name basis with the Goodwill folks.
We've been taking a lot to the thrift store in town here and
Yeah.
so forth, but they're not taking certain things anymore, which is
Sure.
they want up-to-date books. And we don't have some up-to-date books that we're giving away. So we have to,
Wait, are you saying that they're not taking up-to-date books or?
no, they want up-to-date books.
Oh,
We have some books that we want to get rid of, and they won't take them, and the library won't take any books anymore.
yeah, because no one's going.
So we're in a bit of a quandary with some of the stuff, but we're getting there. I'm not concerned.
Well, how many art books did you take up to the cabin? Like 200?
2 artists in the house with 2 books. Probably had about 6 or 7 U-Haul boxes of just books, and Marilee had probably 10.
Wow.
And I never should have packed all the books in one box. I should have altered it with heavy and light stuff in the same box.
Oh, I hear you. That'll do your packet.
The lessons we learn.
Well, the trucks are easier to load than they, or harder to load than they are to unload.
Hmm.
All right, can we get started again? How are you doing, Tony?
Oh, surprise attack. I'm working my way down into the snow.
All right, I'm gonna get started again because of time factor. If you
Oh,
don't,
yeah. I was working, I tend to not put enough paint down, so,
well, you have to put more paint down there.
yeah.
It's a must. Okay. I am gonna go in and start again, and we're gonna start with the background, but I'm gonna use a mid and a small cat tongue, because we're working a little bit smaller area. And I am going to start with delineating some of this back here a little bit more. So I'm going to take sap green and the ultramarine blue. And whatever you put down originally in your first wash is what you put on top of it. I never cover everything that I put down originally because you allow some of that to show through, and it gives not only depth, but a little bit of sparkle to the painting. So I am going to took the sap green, the ultramarine blue, and I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt sienna, which will help gray it, because a red will gray down a green. Add a little bit more blue to this. And I'm going to start back in here. I'm going to dry brush, so I got to make this a little bit wetter. And I'm going to start by making the tops of the trees, which in this case back here, it's a little bit more important that we can see the tops of the trees. The bottoms, they kind of mesh together. So we don't worry about the bottom so much in this case, but I'm allowing what I originally put down to show through, which will give you the lighter version of the tree. And I'm adding a little bit more blue to the mixture, a little bit more water, not much. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make the tops of these trees, and I'm going to come down into here. I am looking at the photograph occasionally, but not over analyzing it. And I'm bringing up the stems of the trees or the trunks of the trees here and there so that you can see them sitting in the snow back here. And every 3, 4, 5, 6 brush strokes, I have to change the temperature or the value or the color. One of the things I don't like to see the same color going from here to there. It's got to change a little bit. Nothing becomes the same after you move about 3 or 4 inches on the paper. And you slow your process down a little bit more. It's not as quick as it is in the first wash. So I have slowed it down quite a bit. And I'm taking a little bit more care with the trees at this point. Allowing things to fall behind from the first wash. Not trying to work too much in the background, but I want to have a little bit of character going on. So I got kind of a grayish green here. I moved this all over here from the dark to a mid-tone. I want to put a little bit of character back in here. Now I have some pencil marks that will eventually show by the end. I'm not concerned about it if it's bothersome. If it's bothersome, I erase them with a kneaded eraser. They will erase, and I'll show you that. I'm making this tree a little bit darker here to pull your eye over. This will not pull your eye over as much over here. And I'm going to see if I can get some trees in there with my fingernail. Then I'll go back to a little bit different color here next to it. A little bit lighter, so it will recede a little bit. And create a little bit of contrast back there. I'm gonna go back and make this maybe a little bit darker right here. I make adjustments as I'm moving through the painting for the fact that you don't see what the relationship is till you put it down in many cases. Usually what I do on subject matter that I have not painted before or haven't painted in a while, I will go back and make the graphite study of value. So I'm adding a lot more blue in here. As you can see, this is receding a lot more. So I used a lot more cobalt blue. Again, that's my coolest blue that I'm using. And again, I'm paying much more attention to the tops of the trees, like so. And now I'm going to come into the foreground trees and ease my way into it a little bit. So I'm using the cobalt blue with the green and a little bit of the brown. I want to warm it up a bit so it pulls away from the background. Things get warmer as they come forward, except for the snow. And this will get a little bit darker, and I'm going to pay attention to this tree just a little bit more. And I keep on adding a little bit more color to it, a little change of color, but I want this to be a little bit more defined as the edge of this, a separation. But I'm not going to define every tree in here. Then it would be too busy. And I'm going to bring the trunks of the trees down to set them into the snow a little bit. And I'm not worried about the color of these because they have a tendency of blending into what came from above. I'll pull out lighter trees later. So I'm making this a little bit more of a statement here with a larger brush. I'm going to make it a little bit darker. But I try to have a lot of variety of things as we come forward. And then I'll make another individual tree here, allowing this mass just to be kind of ambiguous. And I'm going to take a little bit of cobalt blue and I'm going to cool this up over here. And I'm trying to keep the subject matter very simple. I'm taking some burnt sienna now, almost straight, but I did mix it in with what was on the palette. Then I'm going to bring in a few extra trees in here, like so. And I'm trying to make sure that these are not equal in distance, separation, size. Because there's no farmer out there planting these. These fall as they come.
Which brush are you using? Are you using a little one?
Yeah, I'm using a 5 round.
Okay.
I
This-
have gotten away from using too many small brushes for the fact that when I was a student, I would start doing detail too quickly. And I don't want to be doing detail too quickly. So you can start to see this kind of marching back, going back here, going back here. So we have, this is going to be darker here. This will not have too much work more done on it, but this will allow this to be a little bit lighter, a little bit cooler back there, even than what the photograph is showing. So I'm taking the cobalt blue straight and I'm hitting this in here just a little bit. Now at this point, I'm gonna clean the palette off because I want a little bit more cleaner color coming out of the trees. And I'm gonna use my middle size cat tongue with the cobalt blue, and I'm gonna add a little bit of the raw sienna to it. Just a tiny bit. And I want this to kind of tone this down in here because this is all in shadow. I don't mind colors blending into it. That's part of the character of painting. And I'm allowing some of the light to show through. And I always like to break down the steps in a painting a little bit more than what I would normally do, because otherwise I may lose some of you, and I don't want to get into that. Then I'm going to tone this bank down back here again. So that's where I'm going to stop at this point. So just to go back, I started developing these trees over here with the sap green, burnt sienna, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and a touch of cobalt. I did define 2 trees right here. And then I made a grayed down cobalt combination here with the sap green and a little bit of the raw sienna. Then I came back across here, darkening this up. Now, while this is still wet, I'm going to scratch out a few lights in here. Not a lot, just to give a feeling of some of this later trees in here. I could have gone back in a little bit sooner, but it's not necessary. And then I finished off with the cobalt blue and a little bit of the raw sienna in underneath the trees. If you have any questions, please ask.
I'm having trouble with my brushwork. I can't get a really fine thin. Is it? I'm not, maybe once again, I have too much water and not enough paint to trying to get the bark of the trees.
What you do is mix the paint first. Don't rinse your brush out or add water. Then add a little bit of water. And what you can do, Tony, is if you have a scrap piece of paper next to you, try that piece of paper and see what it looks like.
Sounds like a plan.
The water to pigment relationship or ratio is something you have to experiment with. There's a couple of things that you can't teach. That's one of them. The other one is you can't teach on how it's going to dry, because the pigments dry lighter depending on the color and depending on sometimes the name brand.
Sorry, Dale.
Okay, you're back. When you think about this, this is really weird to have all these pictures coming through the air.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
Think about it too hard.
I don't. It's just fascinating to me on how
Yeah,
things have progressed in the last 30 years,
yeah.
when for hundreds of years the same.
We're
How about
almost
just
living,
In
we're
the
almost
last
living the
2 years.
Jetsons.
Yeah,
For those of us old enough to remember the Jetsons.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah.
I remember when we had television 3 hours a day.
Yeah,
Yeah. We had television in Wisconsin when we did get television, one station from Wausau, 100 miles away. And you'd sit there till sunrise to have the TV station come on. And then at sunset, it went off because they only had a license for daytime.
yeah. And in Vancouver, where I grew up, we got KVOS, which was an American station from Washington State, and then CBC. And both of them were so fuzzy that when you tried to watch hockey, you couldn't see the puck.
Believe it.
But it's all the same anyhow, no matter what game you watch.
Yeah.
We have 800 channels of pretty much nothing now.
I hear you.
But that's the progress that we have to pay for.
Yeah.
Well, pretty soon Marilee's going to have to create an AI Dale who actually speaks to us and moves around.
She's got to sit down and write things down for me. She's got to train me a little bit more intensive than what I've already gotten. I know some stuff, but not what I should know.
Dale, my trees seem to be drying really light, even though I'm using darker colors.
Hold it up once, let me see.
Right.
That's not that, hold your camera down a little bit more. There we go. That's not that light, you're fine.
Okay.
Because when you're looking at something on the monitor as opposed to what you have in front of you, there's going to be change of value. Just like it is from one TV to another when you go into the store.
Well, I swear your cobalt blue looks bluer than mine does.
It looks bluer on the monitor to me than it is.
Yes.
And this is a little bit more grayed down, more to the photograph, but on the monitor it's a little bit more intense. And that I don't know how to change, and everything is ambiguous when it comes to value and temperature sometimes.
Have you ever done a portrait class?
Have I what?
Have you ever done a portrait class? I've been doing a portrait class with graphite.
I have done portraits, yes, in the last years, but I haven't done a portrait class because I don't consider myself a portrait artist, but I do portraits of animals.
Oh.
Well, I need to do a family portrait, so you better teach me how to do that.
Well, I can't imagine trying to control watercolor to do a portrait.
No, there's some very good people that do portraits. There's a former student of mine down at the Palette called Lennon Del Sol. And
oh, is he your? Oh, I'm going to take one with him.
I don't know whether he does it online or in person.
He's just started to, he just booked one.
And see what he's got. He was a student of mine in 1982.
Oh. His portraits are breathtaking.
Yes, they are. And he uses a multitude of different papers that I need to experiment with occasionally.
Can I show you? I got to work with my little,
All right.
yeah. See, since I work in colored pencil, I think I'm more comfortable with the little brushes.
Well, yeah, because you're restricting yourself too. You need
Yeah.
Good feeling for the brushes. Fred, that's coming along good from what I can see.
I don't know that I'd say that.
Sorry, Dale, were you speaking to me?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
no, that's coming along nice.
Thanks. It's hard for me to see what you see. So,
everybody sees things differently. I mean, I've been in groups of people outside and in classroom, and you're all painting approximately the same thing. And I'm always amazed on the variety of interpretation that one comes up with in a group. And it's always fun
Yeah.
to watch. Always fun to watch. All right, I'm gonna come along and see how y'all doing. Fred, you're doing fine. Let's go to Janet. Let's see what you got there. Okay, good. Fine. And Rick, how's yours coming along?
I'm
All right, very good.
pleased with it so far.
Yeah. Everything's in the right spot, so you're good.
Yep.
Value, right color. Diana, how are you doing?
Just getting ready to turn the camera around for you.
Okay. All
All
right.
right?
Yep, you're fine.
Cool. Mm-mm-mm.
Linda,
Next year.
can you hold yours, please? All right, good. You're putting in some of the other trees that I haven't put in yet, but that's fine.
Okay.
And Tony, I just saw yours.
Yeah.
And Denise.
Okay.
Okay, I gotta find you on the slide rule here.
So are we going to continue into, was it February, March, or going to do a second class? Hey,
I'm hoping to, yeah. From here,
yeah, good.
I already have arrangements up in Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin to work from their art studio.
Oh, cool.
Hopefully, I have places up there I can go
You're fine, Dale.
and broadcast from. Okay, you're fine, Denise.
Thanks.
Good. I've
It
been
looks
already.
gorgeous up there.
What's
I
that?
researched, it's gorgeous up there where y'all are moving. My husband and I now want to move there.
I've been going up there since I was a year old. And I'm 28 now.
With a few years' experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Julie, how is yours coming along? Wonderful, good. And last but not least, Mary. You got to smile, Mary, when you hold it up. Okay, I like that, good. Wonderful, okay. We're gonna get started again. Now, I'm taking pictures in between just to remind you that we'll be sending out the stills and the video to you no later than Sunday, hopefully, so that you can review it, redo it, fix it, whatever you feel you need to do. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do a little bit of lifting to establish a few different things that I feel need to be adjusted. So I'm going to lift out a little bit of light back in here with my wet brush. I use a 1-inch ox hair for this. You can use just a big brush. I'm just picking out a few things that be adjusted and softened sometimes. But it's things that I feel that need to have a little bit of attention to. And just picking out just a few things to show some light hitting in the background, even a little bit more than a photograph. So I'm picking out some lights in between the trees here that I'll be able to get a little bit more depth, a little bit more airiness within the composition. And I'm going to pull out just a little bit of light here. And there's some hard edges that sometimes appear that I don't want. So I'm going to go in and soften these things here just a little bit. because there's not any hard edges in the snow that are apparent too much in the photograph. So I try to avoid putting that in. So I'm going back and softening them right now. Now there's some lighter value trees through here I want to pull up. And I'll do this repeatedly until I get to the desired lightness that I want. I'm going to tint these in a different color later. And I'm taking my time with this. I may just leave them as is. I'm being very conscious of not having them the same thickness or the same distance apart from one another, and allowing them maybe to get lost and found within the pine trees here. Like so. And there's probably 1 or 2, 3 back here. I always like to do them in odd numbers because it's a little bit more easy on the eye. But this allows a little bit different breakup of the value patterns. I'm going to bring those right down to this first mound right here. There's certain key points I like to pull out at this point in the painting so that I don't lose the character of the painting. I'm going to pull one right out through here. I'm going to have that lean into the painting instead of leaning out of the painting. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to take the paper towel and lift it just a little bit more. So it gives a little bit more variety in here, a touch back there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go now into the creek itself, starting to establish the color, the values, and the temperature. So I'm going to mix up. This has a lot of tannic acid in it from the pines, or what we call the tamaracks up there. So I'm going to take the burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue with different combinations of it here and there, and a little bit of the raw sienna just to warm it up a slight bit. And I'm also going to take a little bit of the green, and that will gray it down a slight bit, because burnt sienna is a red orange actually grayed down. So the green will help it. So I'm going to begin by establishing way in the background back here. Working from light to dark. And just wander down through here like so. Goes into a little bit of a shadow area there. And now I'm going to start painting in a more of a vertical motion in here. And I'm adding a little bit more green to it in this area here because the trees are going to be reflecting into here just a little bit. And I'm going to take my smaller cat tongue brush and allow this to kind of soften. And then we have a little bit of a hill here. And I'll go back to the combination of the burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and the sap green. I'm going to throw a little bit more ultramarine in here for some temperature change. than pure burnt sienna. Because we're always going to go back in and adjust this anyways. This is the first round of this anyways.
Did you start out the stream with pure burnt sienna?
Right back here, a little bit of raw sienna, yes.
Okay.
Now I'm going to go in with a lot of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. You can see it's pretty dark here in the middle. And I'm going to put this in right here. I'm going to use my little bit bigger brush at this point and allow some of these things to become a little bit darker, and it swoops around a little bit. And then what I'm going to do at this point, I want to add a little bit more ultramarine blue to this combination. Get it very dark up in here. It's a little bit darker right here. Now I don't want to paint all this down here. I'm going to allow this just to fall and flow just off the paper a little bit. I'm going to add some cobalt blue to it. Then go back to the burnt sienna that it will meld on the paper. Then I'll go back in and manipulate it. And being very casual about it at the same time. And I need a little bit more darkness up in here. And I'm going to hit it with just the water on the toothbrush here, just a little bit. So it just sort of softens up there. Very carefully. And then up against the bank up here, it's still a little wet. I'm going to hit this with some dark there. And then just again, just a little bit of water so it drops down. Now, at the same time, while this is still wet, here at the bottom, I'm going to pull out a little bit of reflection in here. Not too much. And then a little bit of dark along the edge where the water kind of seeps underneath the snow. Hit it with the toothbrush with some wet, let it fall. Now, that's where I'm going to stop at this point because I don't want to overwork anything. But I do still want to add a little bit of coolness in there. So I'm going to take a little bit of the cobalt blue and add it in here. And a little bit upstream, just a little bit in here. I get the toothbrush very close to the paper and just lightly flick it. I'm not bringing it all the way back. I'm just doing the very tip of it. So we'll stop at that point and you can take that from there while I clean my palette. But now it's getting some direction and relationship that I need to.
Can you go over what you did?
Okay, what I did initially was I lifted, I'm sorry, I should have done that. I lifted out some lights here and there, softened most of the snow, lifted out these trees to make sure that they are not equally spaced. So I lifted out 3 here, allowing it to kind of be lost and found, especially the one in the middle. Lifted out a large one here, and then lifted out a few light ones here. This gives it a little bit different look to it than what's in the photograph. And then I went into the river with the burnt sienna and the raw sienna, starting back here, and then slowly darken it, adding a little bit of green and so forth in here. and coming down. And then I darkened in the edges underneath there and here. And I'll probably go in with a little bit of water here. And I want to pull up just a slight bit. I should be really using Kleenex or toilet paper. I got a different brand of paper towel and it's got this pattern in it. But I'll deal with it later. Actually, the plain old cheap Kleenex without any aloe vera or oil in it or whatever is probably the best to use when lifting. Anybody has any questions, please yell.
Did you put those reflections in the big pond up front yourself, or did that just happen?
I pulled out some of them and then I sprayed it with water and lifted.
Oh, lovely.
A little bit different than what the photograph is.
That's okay. It's great.
What I'm doing right now ahead of time is lifting out this big tree, which you'll do later. And I'll repeat that for you. So Rick, do you have any moose that go through your property?
No, we're on Vancouver Island. Vancouver Island doesn't have any moose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've got a very unique fauna situation here. Things evolved quite separately from the mainland.
Okay.
So while we have deer, we have black-tailed deer. We have neither mule deer or whitetail.
That's funny.
And we have no moose, but we have elk.
Okay.
We have black bears, but no grizzly bears.
You're lucky.
And while we've got wolves, we don't have coyotes or foxes.
That's very interesting.
One of the nice things that we're all very glad about is we don't have any skunks.
Better. When I was a kid, our dog got sprayed twice in 2 weeks by a skunk.
Ouch.
So it was off to get tomato juice, let it dry, and then wash them.
Yeah. Does it work?
To a certain extent, it does. But for about a year, afterwards, every time it rained, he had the scent of a skunk,
Yeah,
which my mother wasn't thrilled about.
I bet.
But yeah, the skunks can be sometimes a problem. But we have, up where we're at, we have the black bear, we have wolves, we have coyotes, and a frequent moose, which I have not seen yet. They're starting to move down from the upper.
Okay,
So,
yeah, as winter gets deeper.
yeah, they do have it. They're up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan quite a bit.
Okay, yeah,
But I had one, my brother saw one on his property, and he's more north than I am. He's up against the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
yeah,
But he saw one on his property, but didn't get a picture of it. So he needs
yeah.
to. Okay, Fred, could I see yours up closer to the camera?
Was that me? You're
Fred,
Fred.
the only other guy in class.
Yeah,
All right, that's looking good. All right, you're fine. How you doing, Rick?
just grand. Here we go.
All right, wonderful. Anybody else ready to show me what they have, or you need more time?
Mine looks more like an island in the sky. My snow looks like clouds.
Okay, Linda, that's good.
Wipe off the water spots.
You can add
Okay,
a bit more burnt sienna in here, Linda, in the creek,
okay, thank you.
but you're doing fine. Anybody else?
Give me 1 minute, then you can,
All right, okay.
I'm trying to fix something else.
Oh, this one.
We're gonna get a little bit more movement in the snow in this next phase, so, but you're fine right now. Good,
Okay, Dale, it's Diana.
coming back. All right, that's coming. We're gonna get a little bit more movement in the snow on yours this next time around, but you're fine.
Okay.
Is that Diana from portrait class? No,
Yeah,
Addison. Is that you, Diana?
no, I
Okay,
was not in portrait class.
okay.
I wish, but
Can I see yours? Yes, you're the only Janet in class there. All right, that's good. You just need to finish off the bottom part of the creek. Wonderful.
I'm gonna take a quick look at mine, but don't worry.
It's getting there.
Yeah.
About blocking in this, Tony.
What do you mean by blocking in?
Well, putting down the big masses of the trees back in here.
Yeah,
You don't have to be over particular about certain things. It's a matter of putting it down and letting it do what it does. Because I'm working upright, so I have to be a little bit more careful. I never work completely flat. I
but
always
neither do I. I'm working upright, yeah.
have it when I'm standing over my board. I always put my paper up 2-inch angle.
Uh-huh,
So that the watercolor has a certain amount of mingling circumstances going on, so that when you're working totally flat, that tendency of just putting it down stays right there. I like it to mingle a little bit more and mesh together.
right.
Having
So
it-
you're saying I need more masses of trees in the back? Is that what you're saying? The blocks of trees?
here.
Yeah, I have just a tiny one over in the corner. All righty.
And Julie, how are you doing? You have to smile, dear, when you show your painting. There you go. Okay, you're fine. What you have to remember is that if it comes out looking like the scene, that's fine. It may not come out looking like exactly like mine. That's fine too. There's no problem with that. Okay, Denise. I'm gonna go back.
Bear with me because my,
I
hang
understand.
on,
That's all
hang
right.
on, I'm coming.
That's okay.
Can you see me?
Um,
I'm trying to figure out, I have like a couple of screens up and I'm confused.
if you hold up your painting to what you have right now. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're good. Yeah, you're fine.
I'm struggling with the trees. I feel like they just look like a big blob.
What you have to be concerned about when you're doing the pine trees and stuff is just a few of the tops of the trees to give that a little bit of form. When they get down to the darker areas down here, they mesh together. But I was
Yeah.
in here, allowing what was underneath showing through. That gives it the character automatically.
Right.
If you delineate all the trees, it's going to appear flat. So you have to
Yeah.
go in and out and be kind of soft edged, lost and found trees, whatever the case may be. But you don't need to spell everything out for the, actually the viewer's eyes will take care of a lot of it itself.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, you're fine though. Okay, anybody else I missed by chance? I saw Julie's, I saw Mary's, Tony I did see, Linda I saw. Diane, did I see yours?
Yep.
Okay. And Rick I saw, Janet.
Yep. Yep.
Somebody have a question? Okay, I saw Fred's. All right. I'll wait a couple minutes and then get started again. Just to give you an idea, this is what I'm doing on Saturday. Another snow scene, but there'll be no drawing.
Okay.
Is
A lot
that
of
free?
warmth in the background there.
This is some pine trees. The reference is not mine. It's from a Facebook friend that was allowing artists to use their photographs. And I thought there was an interesting light and dark pattern here and allow this to follow the pattern through the background.
Yeah.
But I think
Is your
Wes,
Facebook presentation private? It's not on the general Facebook? Because I don't do Facebook.
it was on Facebook. I can't remember her name now because it's so long.
Uh-huh.
But I've been,
I'll talk to Mary Lee. I'll talk to Mary Lee, never mind.
oh sure, just go right over my head.
There's different ways to be on Facebook. I learned actually last night from Watercolor Society. They're setting their zone, yeah.
Why I don't know, but there are different things. Okay, we're gonna get started again. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into some of the trees here that I've lifted out, and I'm gonna add a little bit of color to them. I'm gonna add some raw sienna and some burnt sienna to them just to warm them up a slight bit. And they'll actually come forward just a little bit more. So when I lift it out, you have to wait till it totally dries again. And I'm gonna retint some of these trees right in here. And you can see on how this is gonna dry a little bit less intense, but I'm not gonna make them all equal. And this will bring them forward because green is cool and the burnt sienna and the raw sienna are warm. So you see them come forward just a little bit more. That gives that another dimension again. A minor thing, but kind of fun to do. And a little bit back here, not too much. But I'm going to add a little bit of warmth here with the light coming through back in here. And I'm going to do the same thing over in here. And it adds a little bit different look to what's going on. And now I'm going to make this dark tree that's leaning. And I'm going to take the burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue and make a fairly colorful dark. It's going to be a little bit warmer than what's in the photograph. And what I'm doing with this is I'm allowing the white to remain as part of the paper here because it has snow kind of going up it. So I just dry brush that up into the tree there. Like so. And that's where I'm going to show you how to use white later on. Now I'm going to start adding a little bit more dimension to the snow at this point. And it's going to be a little bit more pure color. I'm going to take my...
What colors did you say you were using, Dale?
I used the burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue on this tree.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to take the cobalt blue, a lot of it, and a touch of the green. I put it off to the side over here because I only want a certain amount. And I rinse the brush out just a little bit. And I'm going to bring some of this green over into here so that this is kind of a bluish green in here. And I'm going to begin to model the snow just a little bit more. And try to get the feeling of the creek going downhill here a little bit more, bring out some shadows in here. And I'm being very careful not to make the same intensity of the blue or the same value so that it has, again, a little bit of value change and character in what's going on. I'm going to start here in the background again. And I'm going to bring this down back here so it pushes this mound of snow forward. And I will cover up some of the things I pulled out, but it was for a reason I pulled them out. And I'm going to tone this down back in here. And I'm also going to have cast shadows coming across the creek and up the other side so we can start to see that happening. Now the cast shadows, they'll be darker nearer the object and they'll get lighter as they go away because they pick up reflected light. So this coming across here will be a lot lighter. Now I'm going to take my smaller brush here, the number 5 round, and I'm going to pull up. And I'm working from background to foreground. I want to tone this down here. This comes up across there. Work down towards the river a little bit. Well, it looks like it's sloping down to the and some smaller cast shadows running through here. Now, off on the lower right-hand side, I'm going to take a little bit of the same color, a little bit more bright, and I'm going to block this all in very dark as there's more shadow in this area here, and then soften it as it goes off. So this will block the eye down, will condense the view a little bit more. And a few little divots here and there. I'll take this with the toothbrush a little bit. I'm going to hit some spots in here to give it a little bit value change within that dark mass. Now, at this point, I'm going to go in with two different types of brushes. I have a number 5 round, and I have, I forgot what the number was on this, but this is a rigger brush. It's got kind of a long hair going from here to here. And I'm going to start taking in some of the trees that have fallen. And I'm going to be very casual on this. It's going to come out of the snow here, and it's going to travel across here and there. And the snow.
Sorry, what color was that? Colors?
Sienna and the cobalt blue, or the ultramarine blue. And some of these smaller branches that are laying in the snow here and there, coming out, going in. I'm not putting a lot of them in here, but I will signify a few of them. Branches going in and out of the snow. I'm also going to add some darker trees back in here, some saplings. That will be the third kind of tree that I'm adding in here. And this will give this a little bit more character to the woods back here. I'm making it a little bit lighter and less enclosed than what the photograph was telling. Now I'm going to go into the river again. I'm jumping around quite a bit at this point. And I'm going to make this a little bit darker underneath where the water kind of goes underneath the bank a little bit. And back here a little bit, not too much. But it's little things like this that I start adding towards the end. Sometimes I'll take and soften it with my finger. I'm adding just a slight bit of character along through the creek here. I'm going to add a little bit more in here. But I want to show that there are that darkness that comes from underneath where the river meets the snow. Almost like a cast shadow. I'm going to take my small cat tongue and I'm going to make some darker passages through here. I'm going to take some cobalt blue. There's a little bit of blue back in here that I want to bring in and tie the snow in with the river a little bit more. I'm going to bring a little bit of blue in to the foreground here. So this will travel across here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of white to the pigment. And I'll show you a couple different ways you can use it. First thing I have to bring the palette up. And I'm going to start with taking the white paint, a lot of it on the palette, take it like that. And I'm going to add a little bit of the yellow to it. White actually in reality will recede because it's considered a cool color. You never want to use white straight. So I've got a little bit of the raw sienna in with it. And I'm going to go up this tree just a little bit, like so. And I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt blue to it at the same time. As it goes up and away from us, it's going to get a little bit cooler. Like so. Now I'm going to take a lot of water with that. So it becomes translucent. In other words, you can see through it like stained glass. And I'm going to bring that up through here so that you can see the color underneath it. And this will give another dimension to your painting to a certain extent. Now, once in a while, I'll find my students, when I had studio class, they started using this fixing mistakes. And I always catch them, I go, no, you can't do that. So I'm adding just a little bit of character to what's going on. Not too much. I'm going to add a little bit thicker paint. I'm going to go into the midground here. And I want to add a few little mounds of light that are hitting in here, just a slight bit, that are filtering through the woods. And I need a dark here. It's fairly dark. And this branch right here. Oops. So I'm going to take a little bit of a blue underneath this here to have a little bit of a cast shadow. Shh. This is the time that you can play a little bit too long. I could spend hours doing little things back here that I can get carried away. I'm going to make a couple of these trees a little bit lighter in certain areas. So I've got the raw sienna in with the white. A lot of it, and it's translucent. It's going to show through what's going on here, but not too much. And the base of this tree is a little bit too light. So I'm going to make this a little bit darker in here a little bit. Not up here, but down here. And I'll take the rigger brush here that I have to do some finer handlings over here. Just to make this closed in a little bit more. And I think we can use another dark tree right in here. On the bank here. All these final touches do bring the painting together a little bit more sometimes. I have to be careful not to get some of these other colors mixed in. So I'm being very careful. And just to go in and give it a little bit more character, I'm going to add a few more darks into these pine trees here. Not too much. Just a couple. And we're almost done. So I got a very dark blue-green here. And I feel I need to add, with the smaller brush here, I'm going to use the rigger in this case. And we add some darker darks here to a couple of these trees in here. Back to number 5. I'll play light against the dark here. And I want to get a little bit more dark in here. And I'm not painting a large area. I'm actually dabbling it in a little bit here, a little bit there, just to push out some of these other things. It became a little bit on the flat side as it dried. So if I can go in here and add some darks, it should finish it off. And give it a little bit more volume of value back in here. And it doesn't matter if I cover up some of the pine tree or the yellow birch, because you want them kind of going in and out anyways. This light spot back there still bothers me. So I'm going to tone this in just a little bit more. I keep on squinting down, comparing values. That's better. It's not out of sequence now. But a little bit too light here. The dark can come down a little bit more. And it doesn't have to signify an actual object. It has to be a basic dark shape. And that's pulling away from this now. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to add a little bit of soft snowfall with a little bit of the white and the cobalt blue and a touch of the raw sienna. So I'm mixing it right on here. And I want a little bit more water just to be soft. We get a lot of snow up there when the sun's out. I can never understand Just enough. Let's take the tape back. That always gives us a better story on the values and so forth, and gives you a feeling of somewhat of a map, which is the main thing why I tape it. The second thing why I tape it. The other one is to give it a, make sure it stays flat. You got about a half hour to finish it up.
Diana,
Yes.
tell me again how you did these, made the bank look like it's slanted towards the river.
Painted it going away from the light as it comes down. I painted in a downward fashion. This is a little bit of cast shadow here and in shadow, but I wanted to try to get this bank going down. It was painted in the direction of it's moving.
Dale, tell me again what you did with the white and yellow.
In reference to what?
Well, you used white, you tinted it with yellow, and I was too busy painting to be listening.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was way behind, way behind.
That's all right. You'll catch up on the video sent out to you. What I did is I started off with the white being more opaque, and I added yellow to it to warm it up a slight, because white is a cool color.
Yeah.
Give it a temperature, but it's cool. And I added that here so that it would come out more. And actually, it started fading on me, I noticed. So if I take the white again and I add the raw sienna to it, just a little bit, because it'll warm it up quite a bit. And I take that and I added it here. Whoops, don't go anywhere. So it starts to come out towards us.
Yeah.
But I never use white straight, because it's kind of a dead color. You can add a little bit, I can add a little bit more light up there. So you can see with the blue in it right next to it, and then the yellow comes forward and the blue recedes, of course. But I'll add different temperatures of things to it, to the white. And I can take this with more yellow and I can glaze across this like this. And it's translucent enough to where you can see what's going on underneath it.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You bet. It's like when you have a highlight in the eye of a portrait, you don't want to light. You want to add the color of the light that is shining on the subject matter. So usually that's warm. So you add a little bit of yellow to that white to add just a touch of a highlight. And what a lot of students don't know is that you don't want to add highlight in both eyes. Just the one eye that's closest to the light. Because otherwise it looks like they're in the middle of car lights coming towards you. I'm adding just some final touches here and there to this. Some lights, some. And every time you do something to a painting, it changes to a certain degree. I'll show you something right now which will change it quite a bit. I'll take a little bit more of the cobalt blue. Through here a little bit more. And then let it kind of roam. And that does change a number of things here and there. It pushes all this other stuff back a little bit. How we all doing? Any questions?
As you hear the crickets.
We're concentrating.
Okay.
Yeah,
All I hear is my puppy running around upstairs because of a squirrel.
yeah, I hear your puppy going crazy there.
I know it's not Mary Lee. And what's funny, every time that we do an interpretation of this, it changes.
Yeah,
Let's see if I have, I did this as
that's
a
wonderful.
I did this as a Christmas card to a close friend. See if I have it here.
It's a wonderful thing about art.
Yeah. I did a value pattern of this very quickly, and I did a number of Christmas cards, and I spent 20 minutes with a different palette of color. And a little bit different formation, much looser. So it was
That's
just
great.
fun.
Is that ultramarine or cobalt or?
This was, I used 3 colors. I used sap green, cobalt blue, and ultramarine blue. I kept it to 3 colors and very simple, and just kept it very loose. And it took me about 20 minutes to do this. And the card was exactly almost a little bit smaller than actually this size. Oops.
5x7?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Uh-huh.
I had to fit it in an envelope.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, was it an individual little painting or you actually did it on cardstock?
Painting for a Christmas card for a friend.
Uh-huh, nice.
And then I did one for my wife that I don't have on here.
Hi Dale, this is Julie. I'm done with mine and I've got to get ready for a 1 o'clock meeting, so.
All right, hang on, let me find you. Okay, Julie, there you are. Well, that turned out nice.
Yeah. I haven't painted since for a long time, so it's a warm up. So I think
I can understand that.
I'll do it again and try to use less light or less color in certain areas.
Yep.
And heavier in other areas. So
Well, we're heavy with color through here, especially in here.
yeah.
Then the second area is right up in here, and the third area is down in here. But when you get the video, you can always try a smaller version of this and see how you can implant that image down very quickly.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for starting up the online again. I was really looking forward to your class. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you again. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Dale, this is Linda.
Yes, just a minute, coming through. Yes.
I'm having trouble with the sides of my creek right here. Do you have a suggestion?
My suggestion first is to make the creek darker in value.
Okay.
And you can see on how it will. I rolled the paint down into the creek, especially on this side here, because it's falling away from the light. This here over here had a little bit of shadow crossing it, but most of my work in here with the dark was over here. Then I did darken this area here to kind of cut the eye off. I added that. It's not in the photo, but make the creek darker first and then add the cobalt blue and so forth into here on the
Okay.
left side of the creek.
Thank you.
Yep. I haven't had much chance to paint as much as I want because I've been packing and fixing the house and moving, and let's see what you have.
All right.
Can't get away without showing you.
Because
I sign off too, Dale.
All right, hang on just a minute. All right, that's good, Mary.
well, it'll probably be better once I get something to look at, right?
Yes.
I'm talking about the details and where you put the blue. You know, what's interesting about you is you don't seem like you paint with too much water, but it looks watery.
It is watery, but it's a matter of how much water you add, the ratio of water to the paint. And that's why sometimes it's best to have a piece of paper alongside of you to test it.
Test the amount of water to paint.
Right.
Okay, so,
This is what we're moving into.
oh God, that is just.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
And I have a deck off the back door now. We put 2 new windows in on the back and the door, and we put a window in, a new window in the kitchen.
All right, I gotta go. I'll talk to you next week. I'll see you next week.
Good weekend. Don't fall in the snow.
Don't worry.
Here's my result, Dale, and I'm heading off.
Okay, that's good. Came out well. You'll get
Yeah, not bad. I'd like to do it again and get some, play with those values a little more.
Yeah, you'll get the video on Sunday, most likely.
Okay. Thank you again.
Have a good weekend.
We'll see you next week.
Okay, bye-bye. Janet, how are you
Dale,
doing?
this
Dale,
is-
I'm gonna go. Here we go. Not done yet.
Oh, that came out pretty good. You have a little more work to do on the river.
Yep,
It's working out fine.
yep, didn't do the whites yet, so I'll add that in too. Thank you. So fun. Great to be back.
Yes, it is. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you, you too. Bye.
Dale, this is Fred. Can you take a look at this, please?
Yeah. Put up to the camera, Fred. Or bring the camera to the painting, one or the other.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
All right, that's coming better. Okay. You did well. Were you painting in between, Fred?
Some, yeah. I used to paint only when you were painting, but now I'm doing a little bit more in between.
Okay, good. It does help.
It does, absolutely.
Yep.
Good to be back. Thanks.
I'll sign off too, Dale. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Do you want to show me what you got before you leave?
I think she's
Um,
gone.
Am I still there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I went in and I did that a little bit darker, but I still don't think it looks right.
Well, you could try a smaller version when you get the video again.
Yep, I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You did
Thanks, Marley.
well. Okay. Take care. Have a
Thanks,
good.
Dale. See you next week.
All right. You have a good weekend too, Fred.
Thanks.
I'll show you mine, Dale.
All right.
You can see it. Let
Yeah.
me know when.
All right. That came out good. You may want to tone down this open space right back in here, Denise.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Because it was falling back. It was too light for back there.
Okay.
That's very good.
Yeah, it turned out better than I thought it was going to.
See?
Dale, Diana, you want to look at mine? I gotta let some stuff dry.
Have a good weekend, Denise.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
All right. Let me see what you got, Diana.
Okay, can you see it?
Now you're getting your darks dark enough.
Okay, well, I went back into the river and made them darker.
Good.
Re-added some of the blue stuff to make it darker.
Yeah, that's the blue stuff.
Yeah, the snow, and
Oh,
all the blue stuff.
all right.
So, yeah, I need to fix a couple trees, and the tree with the snow on it,
Yeah,
my white sort of blended into the brown, so now I gotta let it dry and
all right.
fix
That's
it.
fine.
So I have to tell you, I took 13 of the paintings that we did last year, and I put them into a calendar,
Yeah,
and I had to make 25 of them because my relatives, it's now they expect a new calendar every year with all of my stuff in it.
you started.
Yes, but I have to tell you, you can definitely see from a year ago, last year's were so much better than 2020.
Yeah, you're going to see that progression.
Yeah,
When you're studying with an individual, any individual, you're going to see progression. if you keep up with it. But I think you've been progressing quite nicely.
Can I show you one more thing?
Sure can.
Okay, can you see? This is my acrylic that I've been working on.
Okay, you got the background you toned in with a blue-green kind of soft?
Yes, yes. It was a freehand drawing that I did
Yeah,
on the canvas. And just sort of been working on it.
all right. My suggestion is to watch your edges. A lot of your edges are too sharp.
Yes, they are. But with acrylic, it's not easy to go back and
No, it's not. I understand that. You have to do it while it's wet.
yeah. And if if I did it again, I wouldn't do the background. I would do the object first and then I would put the background in.
Yeah. Is the painting on the wall in back of you, is that the one that I did at the workshop? That you-
Yes. Yes.
Okay. It looked familiar.
Yes. Yes. It has your name right there.
Okay. You didn't take water and erase and put your name on it, did you?
No, but I did my version of it,
That's good.
which took several weeks, and it turned out to be my November picture.
Wonderful.
So, but yeah, you can definitely, if you hold them side by side, you can tell which is yours and which is mine. So, but yeah, so I have been painting a little bit since we stopped.
You always have to continue practicing in one fashion or another. Even if you're doing little 5x7s just to get a feeling for something, it's good.
Well, I bought some, the new water soluble oils,
Yes.
and I wanted to try them just to see what they did.
I had a student use them down at the palette, and it takes a while to get used to them.
Because you can use water to thin it out instead of having to use, an oil medium.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
using them because she's allergic to the thinner. And
Yeah.
you did quite well with them, but there was a certain learning time to get into it though.
And sort of like acrylics, you have to learn how to soften your edges.
Yeah, yes, you do.
So that's what I'm going to practice on in between doing watercolors.
Okay, well it's always fun to try something out.
And it helps in mixing my colors
Yes, it does.
so that I don't get them all muddy.
That's good.
All right, we will see you next week.
All right, you have a good weekend and a good week.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Tony.
Yes, I made a little bit of progress learning how to use enough pigment.
All right, it's not bad.
Pardon?
Your river needed a little bit more twist in here.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not
You
too
got
worried
it a little
about
bit straight, but the background actually in reality has a nice softness to it.
Yeah, that's what.
So I'm not, everything comes out a little bit different than the photograph. It's not a bad thing.
Oh, I'm not that worried.
You just
about
need
it.
to
Yeah.
give the river a little bit more character, add a few more
Yeah.
trees in, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I get more focused on trying to get certain skills, like, how to use the brush, how much pigment
Understand
to
that.
use. So I'm not too worried about it matching, but I was pleased that in fact, I did finally get a decent background blocked in without a lot of detail, but it makes an impression. But anyway, all righty then. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Okay. You have a good
Okay,
weekend.
you too. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, Marilee.
Bye.